Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land you job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hey guys, I am so excited to have one of my favorite clients ever on the phone with me. I want to introduce HR advisor and two-time job seeker, Gregory in his roles as an HR advisor to Fortune 500 retail, fulfillment, distribution, healthcare, and military leadership. He has directed HR operations and driven strategies that advance business goals, take care of talent, and really teach people to lead. For the first time in his career, he unexpectedly found himself back in early 2018 on the other side of the table looking for a job. He accepted an offer and then several months later discovered that he had landed at a place that just wasn't a great fit and had to begin job hunting for the second time in 1 year. Today, he is an HR manager for Guenther Son, a leading producer of branded and private label food. So Gregory, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been wanting to have you on for a while.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
So I gave sort of just a very brief summary, but can you give us a quick overview of your career history? Because there's some other interesting information that I'd love for people to hear about.
Sure. Well, if we were to start at the beginning, I served in the military for 20 years. So that was where I first began my journey of who I am. After completing my 20 years of service, I transitioned out roughly around 2011. And I was hired on as a director for a substance abuse hospital and treatment centers. So I did that particular position for a very short stint, simply because it was just not my passion of HR. Mm-hmm. So after that, I was then selected and was hired on at a retail company, Lowe's Home Improvement. And that seemed to be an area to where I just flourished in. I grew like crazy from HR manager of a small location in a small town to an HR manager of one of our largest locations, and then ultimately promoted to the area HR manager over a region. And was really doing good from 2012 to 2015 in the Lowe's platform or the retail platform. As you said in my introduction, abruptly, Lowe's and I decided to separate ways. So I found myself for really the first time ever in my adult life having to find my next forever home. It wasn't easy. It caused me to really step back and go through some growth that I now, hindsight being 2020, I should have done when I transitioned out the military. I should have taken that time to at least 30 days to just identify my values, what are my dreams, my desires. So I went through that period of time for roughly about 6 months, just sitting back and wondering why and how and what next. So regretfully, I was in one state and really wanted to be in another state closer to family. So there was another barrier I had to overcome, how to find my next forever home across multiple states. I remember thinking at one time, what organization is going to give me an opportunity to when I'm 6 to 12 hours away and then help me move there, because the financial obligation of moving as well. And then, oh, by the way, I have a family, my wife and my dog and I. So, but thankfully, I did have a company in the fulfillment sector that reached out after some hardcore thinking and branding. And they reached out and made me an offer to be an HR manager or a senior HR position within their fulfillment center. I'll tell you again, I learned a lifelong lesson, which is never chase the money or be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. I realized then in that environment that was not me. That was not who the company's great. The company was great. It is a great company that provides some great benefits and services to the consumers. However, I learned quickly that whatever organization I go to, their values must be similar to my values. because if they're not, there's no way you can mask that during a 8 to 12-hour day. And so of course, I stayed with that company for only 6 months. But during that time with that company, another company, my current one of CH Guenther, reached out, found me, connected with me. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So someone knew someone who knew someone that reached out to me and asked me, would I be interested? And of course, I held the conversation, and it turned out they poured it out, their brand, their values, their customer service. Not to mention, it was 7 minutes from my house. So the location was great. The compensation was great. It was everything that I had centered myself for and looked at. So now with this organization, it's great. My first time in the manufacturing sector, which again, I'll tell you, taught me a lifelong lesson that any skill set that I have can transcend boundaries if I remove my barriers and look deeply. So manufacturing, I'm in here. I'm a Six Sigma away.
You are?
Learning.
Okay.
Well, I'm learning about Six Sigma now. I will be calling you soon because when I finish this certification, we'll have to get it on the resume. But,
yeah, you're getting a green belt. All right.
Yeah. So just it's been a journey, but that's my career history.
Wow. So in terms of the first career change, when you and I met, you had been laid off, and that's what propelled you to make that change. With the second one, you sensed that the values were not aligned. How did you go about really identifying that that your values were a good match? Where did you go to get that information? Because, you go online sometimes, but there's not always, how do you know that what they're saying is right?
Yeah. Well, as every organization, most organizations are really working on their onboarding experience, on their recruitment experience. It's not just about trying to find the best candidate. It's about trying to get them in and buy into your team and to your values. Now, that's a 3,000-foot level, overview. But when you drill down into the grassroots, it's important that it gets down there to where the rubber meets the road at. Is the organization at the lowest level living what they're talking about? So with that particular position that we're talking about now, the interview process was great. I talked to some great individuals who were very passionate at the time about the company, going and visiting it during the site tours. I think I went to like 9 interviews for this particular role. I should have known something then. 9 is a long time to make a decision, So, but once you get in there, once I got in there and I started really having the time to look closely, sense, and then respond, I realized that for me, my values of family, honor, integrity, selfless service, personal courage, these are all, yes, to any military veteran out there, they know these as the military values, but they are part of me. 20 years, you just can't change your stripes. So when I get in there and I see the people, I'm all about engagement as an HR professional, engagement in developing talent at all levels. And when I don't see that happening, it makes me step back and say, okay, what's the why? And then I realize that it's time for me to tell someone that their baby's just not that cute. That's the story when you get there, during the interview process, they say that this is a cute baby. And when you get in there, you're like, well, your baby's not that cute, but we can make it cute. And that was not something that they wanted to hear. So I quickly realized that this was not the fit for me. I am at that stage in my life to where 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week is not me.
Right.
12-hour shifts, going in at noon and getting off at midnight, home by 1 a.m. is not me. And so that goes against my values of family.
Right.
And that's when I realized it's time for a career shift.
Okay. And so when you were interviewing with the second company, when you say you took time to listen to the responses and observe, what advice do you have for that? I mean, when people go on site for interviews, sometimes they're so nervous, they don't take in their surroundings. What kind of advice do you have for someone to really try to get their finger on the pulse of what's going on in an organization to see if the values align.
Right. Well, for me, I think the first advice I would give, or what I gave myself, was first be able to know who I am. Yes, having a job is very important. Everyone needs to feed themselves and or their families. But I have to remember that no matter what, I'm going to provide for my family. It may or may not have been a six-figure job. It might have been something way less than what I thought I should have, but at least I'm providing for that. So once I removed that fear or that barrier and made a list of exactly what I'm looking for, what am I looking for? Well, I was looking to see if people are going to slow down and talk versus walk by real fast, say hi, and keep going. Because those are signs that they're very.
You really spelled it out.
Yeah.
So this is what this looks like. This is what this value looks like. Okay.
Yeah. Family. If I walk into an office, and I know not a lot of people have pictures of their families around anymore, safety reasons, the world is getting kind of out of hand. However, I will look for some signs in their office on if they had something outside of work that was pulling at them or needed their attention. Those little bitty things, if I didn't see anything and all I saw was these accolades on the wall of how great they did in the organization, then it made me step back and say, what's going on here? Okay, and try to ask questions about things that matter to me. Money-centric. I'm not money-centric. Now, I do need some form of compensation now, in order to keep the lights on.
Well, and that goes back to figuring out who you are. You've got your baseline sort of deal breakers, right?
Yeah. And during each interview, it's funny how the majority of recruiters will always start off the conversation with, so before we go any farther, Mr. Stingard, what kind of compensation are you looking for? Well, no, let's not talk about that yet. And I would say, well, I really don't want to talk about that right now. I would like to hear more about your organization. So I will refocus it back to let them know I'm not money-centric. Now, we will talk about money later on, compensation, but this is just not the time. If we just met, let's have some cocktails together. So that's some of the things I did. And I went on a lot of interviews. I think I put in for originally, I was putting in jobs like every day, 5 or 6 jobs every day. And I think I ended up clocking close to 200 jobs. Until I finally realized, why am I not getting anything other than, a quick phone call or something like that?
Right.
Well, I was putting in for jobs. I wasn't putting in for my passion.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
So once I slowed down, I got specific about what I was looking for based on my skill set that I could bring to the table, based on what I observed from them from any research I could do online, from Glassdoor to Indeed to LinkedIn to just a web search, anything that's going to tell me about this company as I studied them. Then I put in for that job. Yeah, that's me. Pictures of the job. If on Indeed or Glassdoor, they sometimes show pictures of what happens at the workplace. I'm looking for smiles. I'm looking for people that look like they want to be there.
Can you imagine if they put a picture of someone that didn't look like they wanted to be there? Not be good PR.
Yeah.
Well, so once you figured out what you were looking for, what those values, what they look like within a company, what steps did you make? You said you went from just looking for jobs to looking for, a company that aligned with your values. What step did you make to start reaching out to or finding out about the Guenther Sons of the world?
Yeah, research. Finding a job is a full-time job. As I said before, studying online. I leverage LinkedIn a lot. There are open positions, especially looking at how long the position was open to tell me a lot about if they're trying to be specific or if they're being a little ridiculous about what they're looking for. And then once I found a particular role, as I said, I would leverage Glassdoor Indeed to drill down deeper about what the employee said, what the interview processes were like that other people would post. And then I would research the company more on their individual website and look for those signs and things like that. And then if everything looked good, if it resonated with me, I would then go in and get ready to apply for the job. looking to make sure that the job description also matched some of the keywords in my resume. If not, I would change one or two words in order to match it. But normally, the way that my resume was developed, it would highlight my strengths, which were also things that they were capturing within the job description. So automatically, it got pinged. And so that's what I did to start trying to find jobs. Now, I did start to reach out to people on LinkedIn that were members of that particular organization. I made some contacts, but nothing really that panned out that helped me to get my foot in the door, regretfully.
In terms of, so did you ever look at who the recruiter was associated with those positions on LinkedIn? And did you have any success that way?
I for some of the roles, a retail organization did reach out to me because I had connected with the recruiter. Several retails, because I was retail at the time, coming from Lowe's. So right. I do have a lot of recruiters as my contacts, which is always good to have, because you never know. You never know.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but none of them, only a few of them specifically informed me during the interview process that, yes, thank you for reaching out to me. Regretfully, a lot of times, and I had to get over this feeling, but a lot of times I would get ghosted. And I would get emotionally moved by that at first. Like, how dare you? Don't you know that I'm trying to connect with you? At least show me the dignity or respect of a response. Yeah. But then I realized that these people are probably getting, if not hundreds of applications, and surely they can't respond back to everybody. And the same way with these generic responses.
I mean, ghosting, I've seen a lot about that on LinkedIn. It's a tough one. Recruiters get ghosted. Job seekers get ghosted. Do you feel like you were able to develop a thick skin on it? And if so, can you please tell people like me how? How did you do that?
I think for me, now I'm not going to say that I'm not sometimes still emotionally moved by people ghosting me, be it recruiters or anybody. I mean, it's just what it is in our busy society. Yeah. But then I also have to remember to put myself in their shoes. If the shoe was turned, would you be able to respond back to everybody? So the answer is no. So I just have to trust and believe that they did. Yeah, it did. Eventually, some people did respond back, hey, thank you for reaching out, but you weren't the best qualified candidate, or the generic response of, we'll keep your resume on record. But getting that feedback, very hard sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. But if you don't try, you might have to reach out to 20 people to hear back from 2. But those 2 could propel you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of persistence on your part.
You got to have just a little bit of reality check, is what I told my wife used to tell me all the time. Because I used to get frustrated, especially during that season of drought, is what I call it. She would tell me, she and along with a couple of other individuals that I used to talk to with my frustration, and they were blatantly honest with me. Well, if you said this during the interview process, then that's how I would have received it, like this. So I got some feedback from them, because each interview made me stronger and stronger.
Well, that's so smart that you had a network in place, and that you were sharing the ups and downs with them. That every career expert I have interviewed tells me that without it's your self-esteem can just crumble. You need the feedback, you need the support, all of that.
Oh yes, it's so easy during that time. I mean, during the time of change is what I call it. Because I don't want to give it a negative name, because a negative name would have gave it a negative feeling in me, and I didn't need that extra drama or stress. So it was a time of change. It was so important for me not to lock myself in the house. It was so important for me to connect with people in order to keep my communication skills going, to share that I was going through something. The more folks who are standing around you to help support you, it takes some of the pressure off of you,
That's right.
And then it's all about networking. You never know who you're going to share your story with that knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. So I would share it. I have no secret. Hi, I'm Gregory. I'm looking for my next opportunity. This is who I am. And then lastly, it helped me work on my elevator speech, especially if I'm talking to someone who didn't know me.
That's true. Yeah. Is that how you got the role you're in now, through someone who listened to someone who listened to someone?
Yes. Yes. I never forget. I had just started my new role in the fulfillment environment, and within 3 months, I got reached out to about this role. And originally, I said, "No, thank you. I'm okay." I had my Batman cape on, and I was going to go in there and I was going to fix it. But after a while, so after 3 months, they reached out again, and I had said, "Hey, you know what? I'm okay." And it was a little bit longer of an okay this time instead of a quick okay. Well, the third time was a charm, because I was at the point of, there is no way I can put a Band-Aid on this leaking faucet, And so that's when I entertained the conversation, and it was like, wow, where have you been all my life?
That's amazing. And that person found out about you how?
Through another person. Really, the person who hired me, who sought me out, I had already talked to one person, and that's how they got my information as well. Found me on LinkedIn. So thank goodness for the LinkedIn membership, so I can see who's looking at me.
Okay, and so you take advantage of that? You look at those analytics?
Oh yes. Everything from who's looking to the average tenure at the company says a lot. To the compensation range says a lot. Yes, everything. And so that person, poked me in the side and said, "Hey, so-and-so is trying to contact you." I know. I told him I'm okay. Well, the person who hired me reached out to another person who knew me. It's a small network in our field. And after that one, it was like, okay, they're knocking on the door twice. I mean, 3 times now. So it's time for me to go ahead and hold a conversation. At least see what they're talking about.
So smart. All right, well, the next thing I want to ask you about, your response can be from any of the, your job journey from the beginning, I guess. What would you say has been your biggest challenge, maybe unexpected challenge during your job search, time 1 or time 2 or time 3?
I would say my biggest challenge that I had to overcome would be setting aside my expectations. Maybe.
What do you mean?
Well, we all have these expectations of who we are. When we look in the mirror, I'm going to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
Look at all my credentialings. I've been there, done that. I have the parchment on the wall. Well, that's my expectation. What are they wanting from me? And once I realized that my expectation is who I am, I accept that. What are they expecting is something totally different. So am I willing to find my spot in there and then grow to my full expectations? I know an individual who has been employed for a very long time. Matter of fact, I still talk to a lot of individuals who are seeking employment, so I could share my story with them. Well, this particular individual has been unemployed for a very long time, so I asked them, "Why are you still unemployed with the job market being at 3% or 3-point-something% in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?" And they said, "Well, I'm looking for," and they laid it out, "this specific kind of job that has this specific kind of schedule that blah, blah, blah."
He wanted the unicorn job.
Yes, they want to be a unicorn in a rosy field, tiptoeing, drinking tulips. Yes, and then I said, "So, where'd you get this expectation from?" And they would share that this is how they grew up, or that this is what they saw on TV, that this is their expectation of what employment looks like. No, today's job market is changing. So I had to recheck my expectations to make sure it was a reality. And once I did that, then doors started opening, and good doors.
So sort of realigning your expectations to figure out how your talents can solve their need, but it sounds like while also balancing it against, but these are my deal breakers. I need to work with a company that values family, that has character, all of those things. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Way to summarize it.
That makes so much sense.
I mean, like I always said, I wanted a job that was 8 to 5. 8 to 5 with an hour lunch, right? And there are jobs out there that are 8 to 5 with an hour lunch. Not my job right now, because I work in the manufacturing, a 24-hour operation manufacturing. So my schedule could be 7 to 4 with an hour lunch. I think this morning I went at 6. I'll probably do 6 to 3 because I want to hit a third shift and show them my presence, but I'll still get my hour lunch. So being able to be flexible, my expectations of what I think the perfect job is really minute to my values. My values is as long as I can tell my wife I will be home at this time, or the moment I'm at home, my phone's not ringing off the hook, because leaders can't make decisions on their own. Not my current job. These leaders are doing it.
So flexible on your expectations, but not flexible when it comes to your core values. That's what I'm hearing. And yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you're right. 8 to 5 job. I mean, maybe that is a deal breaker for some, but for you, that wasn't. You were willing to show flexibility on some of that stuff as long as you didn't have to compromise on some of the other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of your job search, daily, weekly, monthly, how did you structure it? I mean, the first time around, you didn't have a job, so I'm sure it was a little different than the second time around when you did have a full-time job.
Well, all of my, I guess I structured it by simply, one, giving myself a purpose that you need to do this, Gregory. All right. You need to do this. Like you need to eat. You need to breathe.
Made it a priority.
Made it a priority. So for my first job search, finding a job was like having a job. It was, as I said, I was putting in at the minimum 5 resumes a day or 5 application submissions a day, researching online, liking comments or replying back to comments of others who had similar values of mine that I had connected with. I learned a valuable thing. It was probably always there on LinkedIn. I just didn't notice it at the time. But on that left-hand side where it gives you an opportunity to all of your recent posts and the groups that you're contacted with or connected with, I would go through those every day and see what was happening in that group that I could like or comment or maybe even sharpen my pencil. So that was part of my daily homework besides my chores. Because if you're at home, you better do something.
Yeah, you took out the garbage and engaged on LinkedIn.
You better go cut the grass. But then for the second one, some of the same things, but I would purpose myself at night. Once everything settled down, just give it 30 minutes, if not an hour. I guarantee that it was going to be longer than an hour because it's so much information out there that is good for me, was good for me to read because it helped me during my interview process. It gave me new knowledge and gave me a way of speaking that was relevant in today's job market. So that was my daily, weekly. I kept a journal. I kept a journal of every job I put in for. I put the date down and when I put in for it, and then what the title of that particular role was. Because if someone did call, I had to be able to go back and reference when I put in for what the job description was. I saved the emails. Thank you for submitting for this job. I would save the emails and be able to go back and reference it so that during the interview process or the initial process, I could use it as part of the conversation. Oh, yes, I remember putting in for that on whatever date. Thank you so much for calling. It's
right. And it's easy to lose track. You don't think it is, but it can get tedious otherwise.
Yeah.
Did you just have a spreadsheet?
No. Yeah, I'm kind of old-fashioned. Bear with me.
Okay.
It's a little
pen and paper.
Yes, a little black.
All right, whatever works.
That Gaffer Target, and then any key questions that the recruiter or anyone in the interview process would ask me that would stump me. Going through the interview process. Going through the interview process is a conversation. Like now, you and I are talking, and I have to get in my mindset. For example, if a recruiter reached out to me during that process and said, "Hey, when are you free?" I would be able to tell them when I'm free for the conversation, and I will find that recruiter, find the picture on LinkedIn, have that picture up as I'm talking. So I'm talking to someone. It feels like I'm holding a conversation. And if I get stumped, where stop that conversation for just a brief second, really, I would write that question down later and be able to answer it next time it came up in a different format, if not the same way.
Very smart. So you were made you more and more prepared.
Yeah.
So now that you reflect back on these last 2 job searches and your journey, what has surprised you most?
That it's just a season. You know, during my time of change, I felt like it was forever. Like, oh my, is this ever going to end? Oh, I've been looking and looking and looking. Hindsight being 2020, as I sit back and look at it, it was just a season. It was like winter season. It was just a season. Once I set aside my fears of, will I ever find another forever home, or how am I going to provide for my family, or I can't believe that happened to me, that anger, that resonating fear or anger. Once I set that aside and stood up and peeked over the wall, I saw this field of green that had so many different options if I just adjust my vision. So if I ever, fingers crossed, I pray I never find myself in that position again. But if I ever do, to realize, okay, that happened, A happened, what's your B? Okay, I can't figure out the B right now. Well, talk to someone that can help you put your thoughts together so I can figure out my B. Because there are options out there.
Right. No, and you're right. And having a plan for when that season occurs.
Yeah. And that's a good word, when.
Yeah, when, not if, is not the case. I know. I do feel like it is a matter. I mean, everyone seems to lose their job at one point or another nowadays. So what advice do you have? I mean, you've now worked across many different industries. What advice do you have to someone who is looking to make maybe a career change and they're thinking about HR? How would you recommend they go about it?
Everyone has some form of transferable skills. We like in my particular profession, we speak the language of human resources. I can talk FMLA, I can talk leave of absence, I can talk any language of human resources. That transcends any sector. I can shift industries, and if I wanted to go to a different profession, like on the business sector, in the business field, I can switch my language, and because my skill set is transferable. So if someone wanted to come into HR, I would simply ask them, what are you currently doing? Take what you're currently doing. Take what you do every day. And then ask yourself, what part of what I do transcends into HR? And to be honest, probably all of it does. From employee engagement to developing talent, the people that you lead, to time management, to coaching, you know? And so that's what I would tell anyone who wants to make a jump into any other industry. Your skill is transferable, and the only thing stopping you is you yourself. Fear. Okay.
And then, to your point, the lingo is different. The skills might not be, but the lingo is. So you've got to revamp your documents. You've got to revamp how you speak. All of that to align with how they're talking.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Totally.
And through research. Yeah, just research. I keep going back to the whole research thing. Leveraging all the different platforms out there where people are posting job descriptions of whatever your passion is. And find those job descriptions and read them and read how they're worded and read the words they're using. And then seek help, seek a partner, someone who is skilled at redoing it in that language, you know?
Right. No, makes total sense. This is my favorite question to ask. Maybe not related to job search. What is something that you think might surprise people about you?
Well, to this day, I tell people all the time, it's when I ask them, what do you think I did in the Army for 20 years, 9 months, 10 days? You're laughing already. And I tell them, now keep in mind, I did 2 tours to Iraq, you know, I served overseas. And they see me and they see my stature and they're like, you must have been they'll name some kick down door or, you know, tank gunner or something cool that they saw in a movie. And I say, well, those are all things that I could have done. And was probably still back in my younger years to do. But now, when I tell you what I did, don't laugh. And I was like, okay, what? I said, promise me you won't laugh. I tell them, for 20 years, 9 months, 10 days, I played the tuba. I was an army musician.
That's right. I knew that. I forgot. I forget that. Oh my goodness.
Yes. I learned to write music. I learned to play music. I learned to just do anything that lifts the morale and esprit de corps of the troops so they can go and win the wars of our country. And sitting back thinking about it, I was doing HR.
You were.
Yeah. So
started at the very beginning.
So that's my one thing that might surprise people.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that, but I would not have guessed. I remember when we first spoke. That's why when you said it, I was like, oh yeah. All right, so you're in a new role. What is next for you?
Wow. Well, next is continuing to be able to sharpen my pencil. As I said, I truly enjoy C.H. Guenther. I have a great supervisor who is a great guy that truly cares. He lives my values. And I have a great supervisor, our director. He truly cares, and our company truly cares. But also know that I have to keep my pencil sharpened. Some people look at me and say, well, you've done it all. You have all the education, the PhD, the certifications, and everything. Well, I can still learn more. So I'm always researching for the next certification, the next validation that I am an expert in my craft. And so I think that's what's next for me is just to spend this season now enjoying my wife. I told you before, our daughters are grown and gone. So it's just her, I, and a chocolate lab, and being in that stage where she served in the military too. So we're finally in that spot of our lives where we can go.
Parents of I've heard it, instead of empty nesters, you call it parents of free range children.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. And it feels good to be able to enjoy life. So to be in this season of my professional life that is truly aligning in this season of my personal life, life is good. Life is really good.
Well deserved. But I love that you're committed to professional development, because if I've learned nothing else from interviewing so many career experts, jobs continue to change. Jobs that exist today won't in 10 years, and new jobs will be around. So you've got to keep upskilling so that you are poised for whatever comes next.
Yes.
No. Well, Gregory, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your insight. I think a lot of your stories and your experiences, I think, will resonate with people that are in the same boat that you were during that season. So we will not name.
Thank you for having me. Yes, thank you for having me.
Take care.
It's my honor. Yes, ma'am.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's SCIM online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.